Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, September 18th. So, as I had predicted, the single player expansion happened. So, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 are available for the solo adventure. I guess we might get into that a little bit today, but odds are not super high. Meanwhile, we have a tavern brawl that says play death rattle cards and win 3 tavern brawls. So let's see what the tavern brawl is. What I imagine is going to happen is we will get a daily quest at some point, maybe at the end of the 4th week, or maybe just randomly at some point that will point us to go back and play the solo adventures and finish things. The solo adventure is a little bit different in 2 ways. That you fight a plague lord that has an incredibly large amount of health that can be incrementally chipped away at. So the first plague lord I fought had 300 health. I got it down to like 16 health, and then I would just have to do an hour, maybe 2-hour run to get back to the 8th level boss in the single player experience, and then do just 16 damage to his health, which almost certainly I could accomplish. That's a nice addition. It fixes some of the problems of previous solo monster hunt style or dungeon run style single player experiences where you just hit that 8th boss and you fail miserably. That being said, when I was fighting the 300 no, I don't think it was actually the 300 health boss, it was the second plague lord for chapter 2. I had Ice Block as a backup so I wouldn't lose, and I had a Hearthstone, which means I could have played that special card to leave the game and try again. So I had like 2 backups to save me if something went wrong, and still neither one of them helped. Like I died due to fatigue, so I could not play the Hearthstone, and the Ice Block got used up due to fatigue also. So construct a deck using only basic, common, and rare cards. Ooh, well, then if we're gonna do that, let's see if we can do something with a death rattle under Hunter, I guess, and just see if we can build something that would work somewhat well with this. You get objects in the new single player experience that are improved versions of cards or different new cards. For instance, there's a Reno's hat card that's an object that you can use that's slightly better than what this is. They're special cards. You're never going to get to play in them, unfortunately, outside of that single player experience, so I don't know if you really have anything more you could say about that. Frankly, it is what it is, but it's not particularly super useful. Random hunter spell. Play that, and yeah, we'll see how this death rattle brawl works. There's a few people that came on to the chat while I was live streaming. I didn't put on the chat that it was a special recording, so I wasn't looking at the chat until the very end. And I started streaming at about just 10 minutes, I would guess, after noon, and I guess that was right when it came out. In all honesty, I did not really schedule it around that. I was up at 6 in the morning looking, and then I fell asleep. And so, like, there clearly is an example here where when I fall asleep, I'm sleeping, particularly when I fall asleep half the time. I'm sleeping only like 4 hours long instead of 2 sleep cycles for 8 hours or longer. Which, that's not great, per se, because it just adds more inconsistency and some weirdness, like just having an awkward life that does not really work for anybody else, or trying to interact with anybody else, or even as a YouTuber trying to interact with my fans, it doesn't work greatly. But yeah, I just fell asleep. I just woke up at that time. I streamed, and I did look at my number of views, and for the first time in a very, very long time, I've less than 24 hours, I got over 100 views. So there is something to be said, I guess, about being on time, like the second something comes out, if you can't do early access, which is really the main thing that should happen, is that you should finagle a way to have early access to games. Of course, then you'd have to disclose that sponsorship, because there's no way you'd have early access without either doing something illegal or having a disclosure you need to make about the fact that they let the game developer let you have early access. So yeah, getting a decent amount of views. Next Tuesday we'll go to it again. I don't think that I'll probably spend too much extra time trying to get any of the chapters in the single player experience done. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much all it kind of boils down to, is that, yeah, I'm gonna live with what I've got as far as the amount of damage I've done to the Plague Lords. There's still a considerable amount of grinding you would have to do, because there's 4 different hero classes in the solo adventure, and the solo adventure is going to then want you to beat at least 3 Plague Lords with each of the hero classes, which means you have 5 chapters, each with a Plague Lord, one assumes. So you would have to beat the 5 chapters completely, and at a minimum of 3 times. Like, really, more realistically, probably a lot more, because you're not going to win every time. Let's see, do we have anything magnetic? No. But we can do this, I suppose. There we go. So yeah, you're gonna have to do considerable amount of grinding to unlock everything in a single player experience, and there really still is not a good reason to do that. Like, the single player experience makes a lot more sense if you're a streamer who just plays Hearthstone, or somebody who just plays Hearthstone and nothing but Hearthstone, and that's a very small group of people, frankly. Right, we'll just go ahead and do that. Clear the field, and then do that. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say. I caught a very brief update to Creator Insider, the YouTube unofficial bit of information show, and they mentioned, oh, we're limiting the number of videos you can upload to 15 per instance, I think would be the best way to say it, when you're using the web page. and he's like, and they're saying that this will just speed up processing, and most people don't upload 15 videos at more than 15 videos at the same time. And and then he just offhandedly said this, if you're uploading more than 15 at a time, you should use the API. And I'm like, what API? When did they ever mention that there was a YouTube upload API? Like, I've been watching Creator Insider, I've been doing YouTube for 5 years. Nobody has ever mentioned to me that there was an API that was accessible to anybody. So I started to look at it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, there is an API. That there actually is an API. Stands for Advanced Programmable Interface. It's basically an example of you can let's see what I want to do. I think I just want to go ahead and try and win. I think I'll be fine. Since I need 3 Tavern Brawlers, there's no reason to not try to win as best as we can. Yeah, you can write programs that would automatically upload the videos, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, if there's an API where you can write programs yourself, there's probably some program already that exists before I go deep down the well of trying to make a quick and dirty Python script. In this case would be what I would have tried, or might still have to try. So then I looked, and yes, there are about 2 pieces of I don't know, 2 pieces of software that still exist, that are still somewhat being supported, or at the very least, maybe it's better indicated that they are still functioning over the course of things being the potential instance of the API changing or deprecating support for some stuff. So apparently one of them is a paid for software that I installed the trial and looked at it, and I go, well, this really wouldn't do anything that I'd want it to do, so it doesn't really solve any problems. It's not that I just need a software that will upload videos to YouTube. I need a software that will in some way understand and help me upload videos better. So it would be able to, ideally it'd be able to increment episode numbers, it would be able to increment schedule times, it would be able to put things into playlists faster and better. And the software I've seen, I found that I do want to use is a Java based thing called what is it called? Something Ucloud, I think. It's a fork of an open source software that already existed that was just unfortunately kind of abandoned. So there's that. Let's go ahead and see what we can do here. Stealth until your next turn. We'll see what happens there. So Uplay seems like it might speed some things up, if I can get it to work. I did a test upload. It does upload. I had to find a modded version just to connect to YouTube, since the original version was archived and abandoned. So clearly there's probably some content management software hidden deep and proprietary to big services, and in fact I know that because there's definitely some things even on the website that are not available to the likes of me and a normal YouTuber as far as uploading videos and setting them up. But yeah, I found the software. It might speed some things up. I might even be able to, if I can figure out how to compile a Java source code into a Java file, which is a bit of an if, then I could probably make some changes to it and get it to still look and be 90% of the way done like it is now, and then have some extra features. In particular, it doesn't support in-screens, it doesn't support title cards, some of the newest things that also may just disappear in all frankness. There is a danger here though that using the software really doesn't solve all the problems, so it doesn't potentially save as much time as I would like it to. Like I can right now on the test, I got the video up, I got it in a private mode instead of being scheduled. So if it can't schedule the videos, then I'd have to open every single video individually and set the schedule. I would, even if I was able to get that, I still need to open every single video and apply the in-screen. I still need to open every single video and apply the apply cards if I'm gonna use cards. Playlists are iffy because it seems like the API only gives you a small number of playlists, so I can't get back to the playlists that are the most important.
The light protects me.
Which would be the everything playlist and the latest videos playlist. It does seem like it might be allowing me to access a secret episode number. And it did teach me a little bit about why in the classic video manager there is this recorded date that you can set videos that I've been consistently setting. Apparently there was also a recorded a setting you could have for a latitude and longitude, almost like metadata from a photo, and at some point that got added and then deprecated, no longer supported for YouTube. And I think a lot of the stuff looking at the YouTube beta is going to get deprecated. A lot of those settings they're just going to get rid of. Like apparently there's internal settings where you could set what the rating on a video or a movie is for many different regions. So it's not just like, oh, this is a rating for the MPAA, which is the American movie rating system, but there's a rating system for the Japanese one. There's a rating system for the European rating systems. It's like you can have a lot of different rating systems through the API, but it doesn't seem like it gets used to do anything. So who's to say why that would exist? It doesn't really make the most sense as to why some of these settings were allowed. It just makes their databases potentially larger, and they're not really using the information. That's the thing YouTube says over and over again, and I kind of believe them, is that that they barely use tags even now in their deep learning software. I think they've probably evolved their recommendation engine completely to actually just scan the videos for images and compete that way, and recommend videos based on other viewers' previous viewing habits, or based on words that it can recognize automatically, because that's really how I feel it works. Is they're just scanning exactly what's being said at this point, and that's how. That's how things get recommended or not recommended. So, in all honesty, it still probably is not as fast as I would like it to be, but I might be able to fix things now, too. Because the main problem in my previous attempts, and let's face it, there have been about 4 or 5 attempts where I've spent a couple days trying to automate YouTube uploads using a software scripting software that uses Chrome browsers. The main problem though is going through the website is garbage and weirdly programmed, and it does not particularly work well when you need that 100% consistency, when you've got to make sure that if you click in a certain place, the same thing will happen every time, and that just doesn't really happen on websites that are slow and often suffer from network lag. But in particular, it was the way YouTube programs its page is a nightmare, and the YouTube beta is not really being programmed in any other like industry standard way either, so even my attempts to use the new website were going to be stymied, and even if it did work at any point, it would be very slow, where this is very, very fast. And on top of that, I hate to do it, but I could use a software like Macro Maker from Windows 3.1, which I still have installed, to make a macro on my computer that will do something rather simple. Like, it could use that software to set everything up automatically. I could have it use a calculator to just take a number, +1, copy what the new number is. That could be the episode number. I could have it schedule a date, frankly, that'll be a little bit more complicated, but not by much. Alright, let's see. This, and then this.
Job's done.
Yeah. Yeah, the dates and the time formats wouldn't be a big deal. Even if I had to go back and manually change the dates, but if I had the time set and everything else set, it still would be fine. I think this old software probably doesn't support anything other than exactly on the hour. So that might be part of the problem. I was planning on releasing things at the half-hour mark, like 4:30, 3:30, 5:30. But if this software actually will work, I will be more than happy to go back to releasing everything on the hour. That's not a big deal. So I'm pretty excited about this. I do need to finish uploading. I have Control uploaded. I need to finish uploading Torchlight, and then starting with Echo and then Cradle, I will upload things.
Rexa versus Jane.
I will upload things using the software, or experiment with uploading things using the software, which would be great, and hopefully it doesn't just send me down the rabbit hole where I end up spending a lot of time programming things that Inevitably, this is a problem with any kind of computer geek thing, is that you could potentially do it, make your life a lot easier, or you could spend way more time than you will ever save trying to get it to be more automated, and it will turn out to never really be the case. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I'll report back whether this software really works. It's certainly not unlocking a whole bevy of new features or anything like that, unfortunately. That would be asking too much. Right. There's this, and this, and this. Let's go ahead and start covering the news because this may not be a particularly long stream. I say this probably every time. There was a story I talked about where I had heard streamers were having trouble where a bunch of internet, it felt like a bunch of internet stuff was, bandwidth was being used by Borderlands. It seems to be, according to Sid Alpha's estimate and research, it seems to be, in his opinion, a case of the Echo software being the culprit. So if you're a Twitch streamer and you've got that Echo software, that might be using a lot of bandwidth, or it might be the online matchmaking that's the problem too. But he thinks it's the Echo software. Very, very believable. As far as Borderlands is concerned, Borderlands 3, it's kind of like just more of the same. Like, people are either staying very silent about it or saying it's just more of the same as far as the game, and there's kind of no other criticisms really. The people don't like the poop jokes and the humor. People don't like that Borderlands 3 hasn't really improved as much as it probably should. But yeah, I also wouldn't be surprised if there is a pretty large majority of people who are just playing Borderlands right now and don't care what anybody else has to say. They're just enjoying it. I would suspect that there's a small group of that. I would say at least 50% of all people who actually bought Borderlands 3 probably are enjoying it well enough. Now this puts me in a weird position because then I don't know what the next big game is that's coming out. I imagine, if I was to guess, there's a pretty big gap, so I wouldn't be surprised if for the next 7 days or longer we do not have anything come out because of just the fact that people would have been afraid to release around Borderlands 3, so they would have moved their schedule. But then a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, we're going to start getting into October. I don't think that you can give the entire month of September to Borderlands. I wouldn't be surprised if we see somebody accelerate their release too. Two less death rattle cards here. Just trying the spell trick here. Still struggling to kill this guy. Let's see. If I play this, this, and then this, and this. Alright, let's see how this goes. This, and then this.
Ooh, I wonder what
Can't
this
do that.
does.
So that was a mistake. Instead I should have done this and this twice, or whatever. Alright, so let's start looking at games. We have a game on Steam called Ling A Long Road Home. This is rated mostly positive. It looks like it is a Chinese RPG top-down type game from the look of it. See, it looks like it's a third person hack and slasher in some of it too. But gameplay wise, you're seeing kind of no interface here, and then you're seeing maybe one enemy and then a generic background, so I'm a little concerned here that this game is a little too simplistic. It's really not putting its best foot forward. Maybe it's a boss battler, and there are some screenshots here that seem to show some boss health. This is 25% off for $7.49, and it's English and Chinese. I'll give it a chance, but there does seem to be a lack of variety in the screenshots. A lot of the backgrounds, just like this tells you nothing about a game. This barely tells you anything because you can't even see the main character other than there's a boss and there's a life bar. That might be one of two bosses here. Again, bright, explosive. This tells you nothing. So I'll give it a follow, but I'm not so sure about it. Speaking of not so sure, did I play all the Death Rattle cards? Because if I've played all the Death Rattle cards, that yeah, there's no reason to stick with this. Let's see what a good basic deck. I think a Murloc basic deck would be kind of great. So let's see if we can put that in there and then delete this deck. And then alright. This we'll just have to build our own just because of this. Alright, Murloc. We'll just start over here with the Murlocs that we can play. What else have we got? Two of those for sure. That's not bad. That's not bad. +2/+2. Murlocs. Let's see if we can get Bloodlust in here. There we go. See how that works. Yeah, I don't know if there's gonna be too much news for this next couple of weeks. But I guess I just don't know. Anything could happen. Anything and everything can happen. So, should I hold on to this? Probably. Next we have a game on Steam called Orbiz, which seems like it's a player versus player on tiny spheres destroying bases. Well, this looks like this is multiplayer only. Oh, one of the things I thought about is I'm going to start using these tags to tag videos, by the way. So I'm going to see if I can get more random views. I'm going to move tags on YouTube around and put the ones that are unique to games at the very top instead of the ones that are unique to my channel at the very top. My strategy of people getting suggested other videos of mine only works if people see my videos in the first place, and it's only clearly not worked that well. So Orbiz is $14.99. That's too expensive. English, Russian, and Chinese, that's a bit of a red flag. These 51 achievements seem like they're a red flag too. And it says it's single player, but I don't really buy it at being a single player experience. Even if it is a single player experience, it doesn't appeal to me. So I'm not even going to bother to put that on the follow list. And do I need to do anything right now? No, let's just end the turn. Gamatsu has an article. God Eater 3 version 2.0 update launches September 19th. It adds Claire's Encounters of the Past chapter with a new origami and more. So God Eater 3 is available for the PS4, Switch, and PC. This is kind of the problem with video games these days, in a nutshell, isn't it? That you can make a game and it's not really going to be the game that's available even 6 weeks later. So there's not a good financial incentive to have anybody ever buy your game brand new. So then you have to make your game have pre-order exclusives or some form of online multiplayer content that it really shouldn't have in most cases, just so then there is this fear of missing out unless you buy the game brand new. Which all of this would be fixed way easier if you simply had your game in a finalized state before you sell it, and then just move on to working onto your next game. More and more we're getting away from annualized releases or a new release after 2 or 3 years, in part because everything is being released as DLC or as a games as service. And that wasn't the original intent of how this was supposed to, how DLC was supposed to be used. DLC was supposed to be you were in the last bits of working on your game and you didn't want to lay off your employees, so you would have them work on DLC while the original version of the game was going through QA. And I guess that's still mostly the case, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work for the consumer, at the very least. It may work for the publisher and the game devs, but it really doesn't work for me as a consumer to see a game like God Eater, you know,
I wonder.
getting a 2.0 version update. And that's true for Borderlands 3 too. I'm almost certainly never buying Borderlands 3 or playing it, but if I were to buy it right now, I would be very upset knowing that there's probably going to be some DLC that changes how the game could be played. Either more DLC characters or some other element that would change things. Cry do 1 damage, or discover another Murloc. There we go. Let's see what's this guy gonna do. Destroy a random enemy minion. Yeah, let's go ahead and just end our turn. Next we have a game on Steam called Dark Running. This is a visually unappealing platformer game. Looks like it's just being drawn with some very simplistic straight lines and low polygon. Taking low polygon graphics to the extreme, quite frankly. Discounted to $2.99, and yes, Chinese again. So, seems like we may have had a couple of days break away from getting terrible Steam Chinese games, but seems like that break is now over. Let's see. I'm hoping this works. TechRaptor has an article here. Indie developers have mixed reactions to Steam's algorithm update. No surprise there. I don't know if this is really anything to take concern with, because honestly, the algorithm update needs to 100% satisfy the consumer. It cannot really do much to satisfy indie developers. It can't really really do anything to satisfy indie devs or anybody else, frankly. This and then this and then this. Then I'm gonna end the turn. Like, TechRaptor here is talking to Anton Petrushchenkov, who is working on a game called Safe is Not Safe. I think this game might be the game that at some small point Zoe Quinn was working on, and that's not getting mentioned. Otherwise, I'm thinking of something completely different and I'm totally wrong.
Is someone injured?
But yeah, Unbound World of Apart developer. Let's see, the owner of Kit Fox Games, who made Boyfriend Dungeon or Lucifer Within Us, has not seen any changes in whitelisting and traffic. I'm not sure either one of these games are out yet. So, yeah, I don't think the recommendation algorithm really is going to change indie developers much. There is something to be said about indie people are always going to be indie people. There's not a good or easy way to get around that. Let's see. We're not going to convince all of society that indie is the way to go. In any form of entertainment, quite frankly. So yeah, you're not going to see an indie revolution happen as far as games any more than you would see an indie revolution as far as movies, and yeah, that's just the way it's going to be. The vast majority of people are still going to play Gears of War 5 and Borderlands right now. You're not going to drag a lot of people off of that. A lot of kids are playing Fortnite and Minecraft. You're not going to convince people away from that. I do believe he did more damage to himself than anyone else. Meanwhile, I think I'll be fine. See, 6 plus this plus this. Next turn I should win. Just play both of these. The thing I can say though about Steam is I did install the beta through the Steam launcher to look at the library, and it's effectively useless for me. It does not help one bit. In fact, makes things worse as far as trying to have an organization or system there. The problem with it is that, and we might have some pictures that I can show off, you have a slightly more visual scroll bar listing all of your games with some search features and maybe some filtering things you can do. You can make a second page that's just custom collections if you instead of categories are called collections now, but they don't really help much either because it's not keeping it all on one page. Where before, right now, the default library, you click on a game, it takes you to the game page on the right. The vast majority of the right of the screen is that game page. The system as it is in the beta takes that away from you, takes control away from you as far as that goes, and makes you see a ton of images, and when you click on a specific game, it then maybe shows you, well, it starts you on a home page is part of the problem, yeah, and then I guess maybe if you click on the game it takes you to a regular page, so maybe it's not as bad as it seemed. But I really spent like 5 minutes on it and I was like, okay, I'm out. I don't like this. This seems like it's going to be more clicks. It's not really highlighting anything that would be helpful or useful to me. I want a less pictorial system. I don't want icons when dealing with as much information as I am. I don't know what I really want as far as the Steam library though. We'll see if I get stuck into using the new beta when it comes out of beta, and if I am really upset with that. But yeah, there was nothing there that was super useful. There was no big flashing button that said, hey, organize your games, or let's help you organize these games because you've got over 1,000 of them. Let's tell you, hey, these are these games and these are when you bought them. These games have this tag, so maybe you should put them all in a category. Maybe some of that exists, but I'm just wasn't seeing it. So maybe I'm just an old man, get off my yard type thinking, and because of that I just want to don't like change. That could be it too. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Master Magistrate, a visual novel game, and seems to be set in a more imperial timed Japan. Doesn't particularly look any different than any of the other visual novel things. I did notice one of the characters in the video, if I could find it, it's probably not what's showing, was a younger looking character, but again, I guess if you're in feudal Japan, I guess that's what I meant to say, then you're not wearing a modern schoolgirl uniform. Yeah, here she's wearing more of a is that called a yakata dress? I may be wrong about that totally. $19.99. full Japanese audio and Chinese, and $19.99 is not asking too much for a visual novel, so I'll put it on the follow list. It's from a developer and a publisher that I have not seen before, so this publisher has published a game called 3D Custom Lady Maker that's mixed reviews, so that doesn't particularly stand well. And then this developer hasn't developed anything else. So maybe it's a new person getting into the visual novel industry, or maybe it's just a low effort developer.
I must move quickly.
Well, I assume the reason I have this page here from the Epic support store is how do I handle cloud save conflicts is because of the corruption bug in Borderlands 3. Yeah, so you could seek out this if you're interested, or if you potentially have a problem. Odds are that you would act the wrong way too fast to actually solve your issue, and delete your save file before you ever got to that support page. It's just kind of more evidence though that, you know, that the Epic Store launch and Borderlands 3's launch in particular have not been well run. Borderlands 3 advertising before launch. I'm getting a lot of the YouTube ads that they're doing that are suppose they'd start off looking like they're shampoo commercial ads, and then they glitch to Borderlands ads, and yeah, okay. I'm not really gonna blame an ad agency one way or the other for a game, and the ads probably are getting people's attentions and reminding them that Borderlands exists. They've been doing a consistent run of Borderlands ads before this for months, so I think most people who wanted to know, or who would want to know that Borderlands is coming out, have long since heard that Borderlands is out. But yeah, all the bad press on Borderlands is Gearbox and 2K's fault, but Epic consistently has problems whenever a big game launches on their storefront, and then it is usually 100% silent if some small game releases on their storefront, because nobody cares about that small game, and as such it doesn't have enough of a player base to matter. Let's go ahead and do this and see if this will burn a card on him. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article here. Get a job. Tequila Works is hiring a senior producer. That's in Madrid, Spain. You know, I've been having this thought, and this is certainly not a fully thought out thought, but most of the things, the classes I took in school, I wasn't really having a great time. I wasn't having fun. I didn't care about most classes. But programming classes, I think almost all of them I actually enjoyed and had fun in them. And my computer electronics classes, I think I actually enjoyed those. So I'm thinking to myself, just mentally, what was it about those classes that I enjoyed, and what was it about those classes that I maybe didn't enjoy, if there were some parts of that? Or maybe in retrospect, I actually, while I maybe liked computer programming better than any of my other classes like English or history, maybe I still wasn't really having a lot of time. In particular, this thought comes from the fact that almost any time I do a project now, and in all fairness, the projects I do now are solely for my own ambition, and so it is not from a book. It's not a simple problem. It's you're gonna do something that has never been done likely in the history of mankind type project, and that involves a lot of banging your head against the wall, a lot of open source software, and building things from source are super way more difficult than just installing an app on Windows that is just an exe installer setup file. So yeah, once I shifted over to mostly Linux when installing things, that adds a lot of frustration. But yeah, the projects I do now, often it is just banging my head against the wall, and it's more frustration than success. There were times when I was really just feeling awesome when I was programming and getting things done, and now maybe I just am older and have more perspective. The internet has made the world a lot smaller, so you can see the successes of other people and not live in this small bubble in your head where your perspective only goes as far as your city limits. And that might be part of it, the issue also. Just gonna end the turn here. And building computers in my computer classes I think were fun, but you know, fixing my computer most recently, it wasn't fun. It was an emergency that was very annoying to have to deal with, and it felt like I was making mistakes that I wouldn't have made mistakes had I been more in practice and been building computers consistently, and that I was having more frustration than I normally would. But then again, I also in my computer class, you put together a computer with some basic equipment. Maybe it had a video card in it. You installed one hard drive, and then you installed Windows, and that's about as far as you got. You didn't have that ownership or need to make sure it worked, or make sure it worked at a maximum of performance. Right. So I'm wondering to myself if I could go back in time, and if I was taking the computer programming classes that I took when I was in school, would I still have fun, or have I potentially changed too much? Of course, the opposite statement would be horrific if it's like, no, you haven't changed at all. You haven't matured or learned anything new or grown in any way as a human being since your school days. That's definitely not the scenario you want to be in. Definitely if I was learning C++ today, I'd find that incredibly frustrating, because C++ in general, the version of C++ I was being taught on was not anywhere as effective or efficient. I think we've probably even skipped past .NET programming and stuff like that, and we would be doing something like G# or G++ programming, and hopefully if kids are getting programming classes these days, they are getting a lot more variety in their languages. Hopefully if there are electronics classes, that they are embracing things like Arduinos and the STEM way more. None of that existed when I was in school. We were fixing old tube TVs and learning, building like AM FM radios, actually soldering chips in and capacitors and things like that. Things that are ridiculous and you would never really do not unless you're just trying to refurb something very special. Or maybe if you're working at an old radio or TV station, you're still switching out incredibly old technology in the United States. I wouldn't be surprised about that. Or frankly, any business having incredibly old technology. But yeah, if I was taking electronics classes today, it would be hopefully way different. Computer, PC building classes, hopefully would be way different. There's a lot, probably less to learn, so there's probably more opportunity for repetition and memorization of the right procedures, instead of just kind of being told to figure it out yourself. Like, for instance, we never did Linux in my computer class. We never did a RAID array. We never did, frankly, much of anything. I liked the teacher, but in all honesty, looking back, he probably was pretty hands-off and not a very good teacher for most of the class. And definitely most of the class in my computers class did not care about anything at all. He just had them do a small amount of paperwork, and then that was that. You've got the grade, you passed. So, in a roundabout way, this is a philosophical thought that I just had: is there really a happier time in my personal education experience in my youth in general that I'd want to go back to? A time when I was there was probably some times when I was slightly more blissfully ignorant, certainly, but if I could just go back in time and re-experience that, would I enjoy it? And I think the answer is probably no. Of course, if I wanted to, I could always seek out higher education. You can always go back to college or go to college if you haven't been there once already. You can always seek out that higher education, but in particular, some of my problems when I went to college were the fact that I was being taught the exact same things that I had learned in high school. So redoing things I don't think would sit well for me. And I'm probably just more suited nowadays to learn on my own, because I don't really need somebody guiding me or helping me, unless you can get like Bill Gates or someone who is really top of their field to mentor me. I don't think a average teacher at any college really would know enough to satisfy my to satisfy or support me in any ways. That being said, if this software for the YouTube upload doesn't work, I would be certainly very happy if there was a Python programmer out there that wanted to make a program. You could probably sell it too, if you can make a Python program with a GUI that uses the upload API to schedule things, so you can just drag a video in and then it says which series of the mini-series you've pre-programmed in as a template is this, and you'll say like, oh, this is a Hearthstone episode, and it'll go, okay, well, the last episode was episode 300, so this will be episode 301. I've been pre-programmed to know that Hearthstone airs every day, so this will air every day. And then you drag another video, and if it's a different video series, you'll say, well, actually, this is Control episode 2, well then it'll say, okay, well, Control was programmed to only air on weekdays, so at this time, so we'll schedule that. That's really what the software that I have is missing, is that I still have to tell it what date and what time. I'd prefer not to have to tell it what date and time. I'd prefer to just be able to say, look, you should know this. Once I tell you the first time, if this airs on weekdays and it's starting on the 1st of October, then you know to go to the 2nd of October if it's a weekday, and if it's not a weekday, skip to the 3rd of October, or the next weekday. And that really is a case where it's not that I really would need a Python programmer. I could make one myself in an attempt to make something quick and dirty, but it won't be pretty. It won't be a smooth, GUI graphical user interface. It would just be like a text-based thing, just in an effort for me to save time. So yeah, it would just lack polish. Anyways, I'm kind of rambling. Let's keep moving on. OBS had a tweet. Let's see. OBS Studio 23.2 is out. I don't think that was what the tweet was about that I was mentioning. I think, and definitely it wasn't that they have merch. I think it's that their YouTube channel got over like 10,000 videos, but even at that, now that I remember, I wasn't actually going to mention that because it is definitely not my job to promote other YouTubers, other people's YouTube channels. Actually, I think that was LibRetro. So yeah, it was LibRetro's YouTube channel that got over like 10,000 subs. Which, yeah, good for them, but also not very much video game related. Other than it is a good example how LibRetro had nobody in charge of their YouTube channel basically, and then they hired somebody, or they got somebody to run their YouTube channel, and then once they started doing something with it and putting out little tutorials, people started subscribing to look at the little video tutorials, and that works well with LibRetro, because then there's a bunch of little video tutorials that can be used in their documentation if anybody has any questions on how to set up things or do things. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Jurassic World Evolution gets more dinosaurs and a sandbox mode updates. I'm not sure that Jurassic World Evolution ever was well reviewed. It's currently available for the PC, PS4, and Xbox One, and the Herbivore Dinosaur Pack is now available for $4.99, so they want you to pay more money for that. It's a hard choice, to say the least, that you would want to potentially own or play a Jurassic Park game. I don't think there's much of a way to get around that. That's all I can do. So I'm probably gonna lose here. Yeah, there's kind of a long history of bad Jurassic Park games, or mediocre at best Jurassic Park games. Wondering if I should change up my strategy here. I got 2 victories, so I'm thinking I should be able to get a 3rd. I don't know what you do to make a good Jurassic Park game. Anyways, it's I think you make a Pokemon Snap game, frankly, if I was to guess. Or you make a game where you play as the dinosaurs and you get rid of the humans completely. The Telltale Jurassic Park game was not well programmed, and it was full of QuickTime events before Telltale abandoned the QuickTime events and only went to the story stuff. And it wasn't well written because it felt like 5 different writers, and I think 5 different writers did write the 5 different chapters. So it went from like the first chapter where the main little girl of the main character acted like she was a pretty loving, good daughter, to by the time she's at the 4th chapter, she's a rebellious teenager stealing cigarettes. So it was just tonally and character-wise inconsistent. Or arguably, maybe kids are that inconsistent. Particularly teenagers. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Gears 5 saw 3 million players during its launch week through Game Pass and Retailer. It'll be interesting to see a breakdown of how many people got it for free because of Game Pass, or effectively for free, or because they didn't individually choose to purchase that game, and how many people actually bought it through retail. I don't think anything new to say about Gears 5. Seems like everybody liked it just fine. It's probably better received than Borderlands 3 because I really haven't heard anybody have anything negative to say about it other than it's just kind of generic and the open world is empty, which, yeah, if that's all the criticisms you can make, that's not too bad. Next we have a game on Steam that's just a bunch of Asian characters, so clearly this is a Chinese game of some sort. It almost looks like a card-based RPG, as best I can tell. But then it also has an open world, probably maybe a small area that you go to shops to upgrade your cards. Then it's got some visual novel elements. There's frankly just too many different types of gameplay elements being shown here. Seems like it could be several different things. It almost feels like this might be a combination of a couple of games. Regardless, English is not supported. It's $6.59, Chinese only. So even if that is a good game, I wouldn't know. Let's see, let's go and play this. Do I want to kill this? I don't think so. So I'm just going to end the turn. The ScumVM team they're starting testing on version 2.1.0. They are going hard on this new expansion in this new big. They want testing to see if Blade Runner, Hoyle Bridge, Hoyle Children's Collection, Hoyle Classic Games, and Hoyle Solitaire all work. Hyperspace Delivery Boy, Might Magic 4, 5, World of Zine 2 CD Talkie, and Swords of Zine, Mission Supernova Part 1 and Part 2, Quest for Glory, Shadows of Darkness, The Prince and the Coward, and Versailles 1685. None of these are actual ScumVM games as far as I can tell, as they've pretty much supported, I think they have absolutely supported every kind of ScumVM game that exists. So They really ran out of anywhere to go. This. I definitely remember playing one of these Hoyle games, if not 2 or 3 of these Hoyle games, back on Windows 95, maybe Windows even 3.1. They were big games. In fact, looking over the list of the games, there's definitely some here that I don't think are even translated to English, like The Prince and the Coward. But most of these, when you have 4 Hoyle games, Blade Runner, which has got to be a niche favorite, and or at least a niche oddity, and Quest for Glory and Might and Magic, those are big old games that I suppose it might be a little bit questionable why they need like why they specifically need ScumVM support, but I'll leave that. I thought this was going to potentially give that poisonous. So do I want to kill this guy? Kind of have to.
Job done.
I suppose the most important thing to take from the idea that ScumVM as a virtual machine / emulator is they specifically take a lot of effort and put a lot of time into making things run right, in my opinion. So where DOSBox would potentially just throw something out and say, well, here's the DOSBox emulator, your mileage may vary. If it runs on ScumVM and it's in its 100% it works state, which they actually track and look at, you're in a much better place. There was a website, at least one I'm sure, that would show like how accurate the emulation was going for DOSBox for a lot of games, but the website I don't think is maintained very well, or I haven't done anything with it. Moving on, next game we have on Steam is called Daymare 1998. This looks like a Resident Evil inspired survival horror zombie game. It doesn't look like an asset flip though, and I'm not sure that there isn't a Daymare series. It's being bundled with Hatred, so is this from the same developer as Hatred or the same publisher as Hatred? This took me to Destructive Creations.
This time.
Yeah, Destructive Creations is the publisher. Well, Daymare 1998 deserves to be on the fall list. We'll see. Frankly, I should probably just put it on the wish list. The idea of finding something that might be a Resident Evil clone and is potentially better than one of the bad Resident Evil games is intriguing. Now, at no point would I really want to play Daymare and not purchase Resident Evil 7 or the Resident Evil 2 remake, but something that's a close second to Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 7 is probably better than playing Resident Evil 6. Alright, we kind of struggled here, but we got the 2 daily quests done, and this is a good point to break up this recording, so let's break up this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.